Something unique is stirring on the PGA Tour right now, a vibe that stands apart from the usual rhythm of the season. It's tough to pinpoint exactly what it is, but if you've been locked in week after week, you can sense it steadily building. There's an unmistakable energy surrounding the tour these days that runs much deeper than who happens to be leading a leaderboard or dominating social media trends. It goes beyond surface-level excitement. It's the kind of electric feeling you get when genuine, unfolding stories are playing out live in front of your eyes, with endings still unwritten. Two entirely different narratives are developing at the same time, and together they reveal more about the state of professional golf in 2026 than any statistics or rankings ever could. One tale is intense and almost movie-like in how it has unfolded. The other is quieter and deeply personal, the sort of internal battle that rarely grabs headlines but strikes a chord with anyone who has ever competed and watched results refuse to match their effort. And as we head toward Augusta National with the Masters fast approaching, both of these stories are reaching a critical crossroads at precisely the same moment. Let's begin with Tiger Woods, because really, where else would you start when discussing the PGA Tour? For nearly 30 years, he has been the undeniable heartbeat of this sport. And even now, during his most challenging periods, he somehow remains squarely at the center of every conversation. On March 27th, his vehicle was involved in a serious rollover crash in Jupiter Island, Florida. This was no minor incident or exaggerated close call. The car ended up on its side. First responders rushed to the scene. By every reasonable standard, the situation was tense, frightening, and serious. Yet even amid that chaos, while the dust was still settling and details were still being sorted, someone asked if he planned to play in the Masters. And Tiger Woods, staying true to the man he has always been, replied that he was hoping to compete and that it would depend on the support of those around him to help him get there. Just pause and let that sink in. Most people, after experiencing something as jarring as a rollover accident, would have golf as the furthest thing from their mind. Tiger, however, was already thinking ahead, mentally mapping his route back to Augusta. That single response, delivered in the heart of turmoil, reveals more about his unbreakable competitive spirit than any carefully staged press conference or documentary ever could. It isn't an act he puts on for the cameras. It is simply who he is at his core. And that's precisely why, despite everything he has endured, people around the world still refuse to write him off. But the story doesn't stop at the crash and that powerful response. Tiger entered a not guilty plea to charges of DUI with property damage and refusal to submit to a sobriety test. He retained high-profile attorney Douglas Duncan and formally requested a jury trial. A pre-trial hearing is set for May 5th in Martin County, Florida, meaning this legal matter will loom large over everything as the Masters draws near. Stepping back to see the bigger picture, this marks the second rollover crash Tiger has been involved in since 2021 and the second DUI-related arrest since 2017. These are not details that can be casually dismissed or downplayed. They form part of a more complex, layered story about a man who stands among the greatest athletes this sport has ever known, while simultaneously navigating deeply personal challenges that extend far beyond the golf course. As fans who genuinely care about the game, it leaves us in an uneasy but necessary position. We want to honor everything Tiger has given to golf. We want to cheer for his comeback. Yet we also cannot ignore the full reality or pretend the difficult parts don't exist. What added a strangely moving, profoundly human touch to the entire episode was what happened with his golf clubs after the crash. His clubs were in the back of the vehicle when it rolled. During the recovery, Tiger specifically asked that his putter be retrieved. He mentioned, almost matter-of-factly, that he had won 14 majors with that putter. 14. His manager retrieved it and called it a piece of history. That quiet, almost casual moment amid a genuinely grave situation captured something essential about Tiger that words can barely convey. Even when his life feels like it's unraveling around him, even when the circumstances are as far removed from competition as possible, the game remains inseparable from him. It isn't something he turns on and off. It is deeply woven into the very fabric of his identity, something very few athletes in any sport ever experience with their chosen craft. Just 3 days before the accident, after playing in his first TGL match of the season, he had spoken candidly about how deeply he loved the Masters and how desperately he wanted to compete there, continuing to push himself to get ready. The clubs riding in the back of that car were no coincidence. They reflected a man who never truly steps away from the game, even when perhaps he should allow himself a moment to simply breathe. Now, Let's shift focus entirely, because the second story unfolding on the PGA Tour feels completely different on the surface, yet carries just as much significance when you truly reflect on it. Brian Harman is the 2023 Open Championship winner. He stood on the 18th green at Royal Liverpool and lifted the claret jug after one of the most commanding major performances in recent years. He is a proven champion who has shown beyond doubt that he can rise to the biggest moments when the pressure is at its peak. However, the 2026 season has been a frustrating and often difficult stretch for him. He started with 2 miscuts. He posted a tie for 61st in another event. Across 7 starts, he managed only 3 finishes inside the top 53. On paper, those results don't look like a major winner hitting his stride. They look like a player still searching for answers. What makes Harman's situation especially compelling, and far more relatable than many struggles you hear about, is how openly and honestly he has spoken about it. He isn't blaming his equipment, complaining about course conditions, or pointing to a technical flaw in his swing that needs fixing. Instead, he says his game actually feels solid. He has described stepping onto the course feeling like he was playing well, striking the shots he intended, and yet somehow walking off with scores that didn't reflect the quality of his play. He called it a strange sensation of posting the highest number possible each day. When momentum built, he couldn't quite sustain it. When things turned sour, he struggled to pull himself back. If you've ever competed seriously in golf, or in anything meaningful, you know how crushing that disconnect can be. You put in the work. You trust your process. You walk onto the course with real belief. And yet the scoreboard keeps delivering a different message, day after day, week after week. It chips away at you in ways that are difficult to explain to those who haven't lived it. The potential turning point, or at least a first sign of one, arrived at the Players' Championship at TPC Sawgrass. The Players is one of the toughest tests on the entire tour, a venue that punishes careless play and a distracted mind. Harman struggled in the first round and admitted he felt pretty low afterward. But Friday changed everything. He fired a 64, one of the strongest rounds of the week. He finished the tournament tied for 11th. It wasn't a position to contend for the win on Sunday, but it finally felt like a result that matched the level he had actually been performing at all season. Afterward, he said it felt like he had turned a corner, as if something had clicked and he was regaining command of both his game and his outcomes. He also highlighted a key decision on the 16th hole, where he chose aggression over safety. He knew going for it involved real risk, and laying up would likely have secured a safer leaderboard position. But he explained that's simply not why they play the game. That mindset, the courage to embrace risk in pursuit of something greater, is exactly what helped him win a major. Hearing it re-emerge in how he described that choice was genuinely uplifting. From Sawgrass, he moved straight into the Valero Texas Open, his last competitive stop before the Masters. It's also a tournament where he has a strong track record, having won there just last year. That mix of familiarity and recent success brings a special kind of confidence into the week. There's pressure that comes with defending a title, of course. But there's also a level of comfort and assurance that cannot be manufactured. He knows how to win on that course. He understands exactly what it demands. And if the shift he felt at Sawgrass is genuine rather than just one strong week in a bumpy stretch, this could set the stage for something meaningful heading into Augusta. There's also a larger discussion to be had about where Harman stands in his career and what is realistically possible for players at this stage. He is approaching 40, and for many years in professional golf there was an assumption that a player's prime years were clearly behind them by that age. Recent seasons have shattered that idea. Justin Rose has continued winning and contending at the highest levels well into his 40s. Gary Woodland secured a major and stayed competitive deep into his mid-40s. The old belief that golfers peak early and then steadily decline no longer holds as a simple truth. The combination of the game's physical demands and the experience, patience, and mental toughness that only come with time means some players are reaching their peak later than anyone expected. So when observers look at Harman and question whether his best days are over, the truthful answer is that no one knows for sure. And current trends suggest the question itself may rest on an outdated assumption. When you place these two stories side by side, they paint a raw, honest, and multi-layered portrait of where the PGA Tour stands as it approaches a year's first major. Tiger Woods is fighting simply to reach the starting line. He carries the burden of a serious legal situation, the physical consequences of a terrifying accident, and a body that has endured more surgeries, recoveries, and setbacks than nearly any athlete in the history of the sport. And yet the buzz he still creates, the persistent questions about whether he might appear at Augusta, speak volumes about what he continues to mean to golf and its fans. Brian Harman, by contrast, is already at the starting line. His body is healthy. His game feels fundamentally sound. He possesses the hard-earned experience of winning a major and understanding what that stage requires. And he is still grinding, still searching, still working to convert good play into the results that truly matter. One man is battling for the opportunity to compete. The other is battling to maximize the opportunity he already has. Both struggles are difficult. Both are authentic. And both serve as powerful reminders that talent, reputation, and past achievements guarantee nothing in this game from week to week. What makes this particular moment feel especially compelling as the Masters nears is that Augusta National has a unique ability to cut through noise and demand something very specific: preparation, precision, mental and emotional resilience, and the capacity to stay composed when everything feels like it's closing in at once. For Tiger, the immediate question is whether he can even get there, and what might happen if he does. For Harman, the question is whether the corner he turned at Sawgrass marks the start of something lasting or simply one positive week amid an otherwise challenging stretch. Right now, neither outcome is certain, and that very uncertainty is what makes both stories so compelling to follow. The most captivating version of professional golf, the one that keeps you glued to the screen late on Sunday afternoons and reaching for your phone first thing Monday morning, isn't the one that follows a predictable script. It's the one filled with surprises, where players discover something unexpected within themselves, and where the sport reminds you all over again exactly why you fell in love with it in the first place. Right now, in these final weeks before the Masters, that is precisely the kind of season the PGA Tour is delivering.